Hello, welcome one and all to episode 96 of A Stitch in Time. Today is Tuesday, April 16th, 2019. My name's Carol and I'm coming to you on a rather overcast afternoon from the Fraser Valley of British Columbia. We woke up to sunshine, it was so nice, but the clouds have since rolled in and we are expecting rain later this afternoon and into the evening, and in fact I think we're supposed to rain for the next several days. We just can't seem to string together more than one or two nice days in a row, and it's starting to get to me. It says typical spring weather for our area, and you think I'd be used to it by now, but it's just so lovely when it's sunny out. All the trees are continuing to leaf out, and the spring flowers are blooming, and the trees are blossoming, and it all looks so much prettier in the sunshine. But we do need the rain, so I guess I should stop complaining. Hi, how are all of you? I've had a pretty good week. I hope you have too. Thanks to all of you who did get in touch this past week. It was great to hear from you as always. I'm glad so many of you seemed to enjoy our little field trip last week. We're very lucky to have the Heron Reserve so close, and lucky to see herons fairly frequently at certain times of the year. In fact, we used to have, years ago, our house backs onto fields, and we used to have a clothesline pole right at the end of our yard, and for a few years in a row, during certain times of the year, I think around January, February, sometimes we'd get up in the morning and there'd be a heron roosting on the clothesline pole at the end of our yard, and it would stay there for 1, 2, 3 hours sometimes. And then our neighbors, well, we got new neighbors, and then they got a dog, and that kind of put the end to that. And then we put a new fence in and took out the clothesline pole. So that's an era that's come and gone, but we were spoiled for many years to have that experience. Anyway, that has nothing to do with what's going on this week. It's been a fair bit going on. I'll tell you about that later on in the episode. So I haven't done tons of knitting, but I do have a few things to show you. So let's do that. I think it's going to be a pretty short episode though, because yeah, not tons of making happening this week. So first up is my one and only finished project for this week. As I had hoped and expected, I did finish my Dusky Wing shawl, designed by Lori Law of Ocean Wind Knits. It is part of her Crescent collection, which is a collection of 6 crescent-shaped shawls. And this is the third one that I have cast on. And it is knit in the same yarn as the original sample. It is Ocean Wind Knits Sock Merino in the morph colorway of a 6 skein shift set. And so as you can see, it runs from a very, very pale aqua into a deeper aqua, into more of a sea glass color, and then this beautiful mauvey purple on the edge. So the screen's not big enough to show you the whole thing. That gives you a pretty good idea though if I lean way back in my chair. And I do have a picture of it blocking on my project page. So I'll come a little bit closer so you can see the different lace patterns in it in different colors. So it starts with this lace pattern, then it moves to these columns, and then finishes with this pretty edging. So like the other shawls in this collection, it's definitely an enjoyable knit, and I really like this size. It's great for wearing kind of like kerchief style, which is how I like to wear my shawls, my one skein shawls. So let's see. Lack of a mirror makes it a little bit difficult, but I can see myself in the screen, so that gives you an idea. So yeah, really happy with how this turned out. And it's nice and light, not too heavy to wear. So yeah, there's number 3 down out of 6. I'm not sure if I'm going to cast on another from that collection next, or just what I'm going to do. I'm kind of up in the air with what I want to make next. So I and I haven't given it a ton of thought, to be honest with you. So we'll see how the spirit moves me. In the meantime, I have continued to work on my Tea and Biscuits socks, which are just a plain stockinette sock knit from the toe up with coordinating toes, heels, and cuff. So if you tuned in last week, I told you I had knit the entire sock and then realized that I hadn't knit the leg as long as I prefer due to a measuring brain lapse, let's call it. So I had taken out the ribbing, rejoined this yarn, and knit about another 1.5 inches before doing the ribbing over again. So I'm much happier with this length of leg. So I'll bring it a little closer so you can get a better look. And then I have cast on, well, I had the second sock, I had the toe of the second sock knit last week, but I've since then done, what, about 1.5 inches maybe of the foot. Haven't worked on these, as you can tell, I haven't worked on them a whole lot this last week. So the yarn, which I just cannot tell you how much I love this yarn, this colorway. So this is Ancient Arts merino fingering sock. It's 80/20 merino, superwash merino nylon. That's the Tea and Biscuits colorway. And then the coordinating yarn is from Midnight Cravings. It is their Sweet Sock in Amethyst Brooch, and it's leftovers from a shawl that I knit. Time Trades. This week I actually remember the name of it. And then my only other project I've been working on this week is a new pair of socks called, well, I think they're called Samphire socks. They are spelled like they would be pronounced samphire, like sapphire. For some reason, I had a thought that maybe there was a different way to pronounce it, like samphire, for instance. I'm not sure why. I went online today and looked at a bunch of different pronunciation videos, and they all say samphire. But there were comments in a couple of them, or in one of them I should say, a couple of comments that said it was pronounced more like samphire. So those of you over in England, let me know. Apparently this is like a seaweed that grows in Europe. It is not a word or a type of plant that I am familiar with. So it's all very new to me. In any case, take a look at this pretty sock. Sorry, I think I just shook the camera. So it has a twisted rib, 1x1 twisted rib, goes into this lace pattern on the front of the sock, and on the back of the sock is like a broken rib, 1x1. I did change up one thing in the pattern. The ribbing on the sock is offset from this ribbing by 1, so that the purls go down and then the knits start below them for the main part of the sock. And I switched things up so that the ribbing all kind of ran into each other. All the purls follow the purls and the knits follow the knits. It's just, it's not like it would have mattered if I hadn't. To me, that's just more pleasing to the eye, and so that's what I did. Very minor alteration. So I have one more pattern repeat, lace pattern repeat to do on the leg until it's time to do the heel, and it is a traditional heel flap and gusset style sock. So those are moving right along. And the yarn I'm using is something I've had in my stash for years and years, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think I won this as a prize in a knit along. So just thought the greens would work really well for the sock. and it is from Beyond Basic Knits, which does not seem to be in business anymore as far as I could tell. It's the Prima Superwash Sock, which is an 80/20 merino nylon, and it is in the Kendall colorway, which is hard to read, but that's what that says. So, yeah, that's it for knitting. To take that shawl off, it was getting rather warm. So earlier this week, my oldest sister came over and she had some curtains that she had picked up in a thrift store, and she asked me if I would hem them for her for their trailer, their camping trailer. So that's a job I have to tackle this next week. It's actually really easy because I can use the existing casing for one set of the curtains and just cut off the appropriate length and hem them. And then the hem that's existing is perfect as a casing. So what's remaining will flip upside down, use that hem as a casing for the other two, and cut them off to the appropriate length, and I'll put a hem on them. And then from the fabric in the middle, I'll make some fabric ties to tie them back with when they're open. So it won't take too long to do it. It's actually just a matter of getting out my big cutting board and cutting them to length, and the actual hemming and such won't take very long. Just got to make time for it. One reason I haven't done as much knitting this week is that I've been reading a little more. Usually after dinner, I sit down with a cup of tea and knit for a few hours, and last night I just didn't feel like knitting, so I picked up my book, Agatha Christie, The Hollow. It was probably about halfway through, and I just read and finished it. So I believe I said last week that I have read this before, and I know I have, and I thought I knew how this one went, but actually I must be thinking of a different book because it didn't go at all how I expected. In any case, I did enjoy it, and while I did not figure out who done it, I did see through some of the clues that were put out there. Figured out a few things that had happened, so I felt pretty good about that. Because usually she fools me all together. So next, I think I'll probably just grab the next book from the next book in line in order of publication, and I don't even know offhand which one that's going to be, but definitely, yeah, just enjoyed an evening of reading, which is, like I say, very unusual for me. I usually just read for a little bit before I go to bed at night, turn out the light, but it was actually a really nice, quiet, peaceful evening, and my husband was on the phone for a little while with his brothers, but then sat down at the other end of the couch and read his book. So it was a nice, cozy evening. So let's see what's been going on this week. Oh, I know, first and foremost, I can't let this episode go by without mentioning a very, very tragic fire at Notre Dame. That was, I think the whole world was watching yesterday, and felt kind of heartsick, really. What a shame. It's encouraging to hear that it looks like they'll be able to repair what's been lost. But yeah, very tragic for not only the people of Paris and France in general, but also the world. It's such an iconic site. I was lucky enough, Cameron and I were both lucky enough to visit there in 2007. And we went one day and kind of toured the inside, and then we returned the next day to do a tour of the roof. And that was really, really cool. One of the strong impressions I left with was looking at the grooves in the stone staircase and being impressed with how many people, how many footsteps it took to carve such grooves into those stone steps. that just has always stayed with me. So yeah, it's just a terrible, terrible event, but encouraging that that it may be restored to its former glory one day. Because of the weather, ball last week was canceled again, and looks like, depending on how things go tomorrow, the third game might also be canceled. We'll see how that goes. Been busy this week getting taxes done. I know in the States your tax deadline is April 15th. Ours is April 30th, so we have a little bit more time than you to get things together. And in truth, I've been putting it off, but sat down on Sunday, well, a little bit before that too. I think Friday, or I should say Saturday. Friday and Saturday, I kind of put my nose to the grindstone and got most of it done. I just have to go through now and review it, so dot some I's, cross some T's, and then we can get that on its way to the tax man. Probably definitely the highlight of this week was having the kids and grandkids all here on Sunday for an early Easter dinner. We are going to Victoria this coming weekend to spend Easter and my mother-in-law's 94th birthday together with Cameron's family. So sounds like, from what I understand, we're doing a brunch for her on Saturday, which is her actual birthday, and then both my brother-in-law and sister-in-law recently retired, and so they're going to that evening have some friends over to celebrate that. So it'll be a very eventful day on Saturday, and then we have to come home Sunday because Cameron has to go back to work on Monday. He does not get it as a holiday, so kind of a quick weekend. We'll go over Friday, and Friday I am planning to go downtown Victoria and visit one of my favorite yarn shops, the Beehive Wool Shop. I have a gift certificate from Christmas that's burning a hole in my purse, and so I'm really excited about going in and having a little bit of money to spend guilt-free. Not that I ever really feel guilty about spending money on yarn, but I know I have some money that's what it's designated for. So I am not sure exactly. One thing I have in mind is that if I originally bought this Tea and Biscuits yarn there, and I'm kind of thinking about if they have this colorway in stock, I might pick up enough for a sweater. I'll put a picture in here. There's a sweater called Light Ease or Ease Light, and I think it's something plumber. I'll write it in down here. Anyway, it's shown with a solid yoke and a variegated body, if I remember correctly. I've always liked the look of that, so I'm thinking about possibly looking for yarn for that sweater. And this is a fingering weight yarn, and the pattern calls for a sport weight, but I'm pretty sure I can make it work. So that is one thing that's on my mind as far as purchases go. So anyway, as I said, we had everyone over for family dinner on Sunday, and we hid a few Easter eggs around for the kids, so they had fun doing a little egg hunt when they got here. And then it was pretty decent out, so Cameron and Neil, our son-in-law, decided to throw the ball around, get a little bit of practice in before ball starts this year. And so my other sons went out, and the kids were out there and stuff. So it was nice that they got a little bit of fresh air in the backyard, and then yeah, I'd cooked a turkey for dinner, and we had a really nice, just was nice to get together. We hadn't been all together since Christmas time, so yeah, that was really fun. And I don't think there's much more to say about any of that. I was thinking about something good, and as I was eating my lunch, I decided my something good for this week was going to be turkey leftovers. Had a big turkey. Everyone took some home for sandwiches, and I'm still left with a bunch. So I made a pot of soup, and I've had soup and sandwich for lunch, and then I'm making a turkey pot pie for dinner tonight. And I really think I actually like, as much as I like turkey dinner, I like the leftovers better, especially the soup. So yeah, that's my something good this week is turkey leftovers. By the end of the week we might be sick and tired of turkey, but right now I'm quite enjoying it. So that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. Like I said, I was pretty sure it was going to be a short one, but I definitely wanted to touch base. So for all of you who are celebrating Easter this weekend, a very happy Easter to you. And for those of you who will be celebrating Passover, all the best to you in your Passover celebrations also. So take care, everybody. Enjoy a long weekend if you're lucky enough to get one. And take care of yourselves. Happy knitting. See you next week. Bye.